crisis affect the masses. There's no excuse. You've been loosed.
This is From Destruction to Dignity with Janice Pons. Each week, Janice shares her wisdom to enlighten, educate, and advance the culture in America today. Janice Pons is a mother, author, and free thinker, and your host for our podcast this evening. Now let's join your host, Janice Pons.
Greetings, greetings, greetings. Come on in. Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Janice Pons. I'm the host on our podcast, From Destruction to Dignity, Clinical Perspective, Spiritual Truths. Guys, there's a lot going on, and we're going to dive in because we got to keep dissecting things, my fellow Americans and my brothers and sisters. Guys, there's a lot of important things that I want to keep before us. One very important thing is for us to continue to pray. You know, I'm always putting this number out here because there's a lot of people and we care about our fellow Americans. Remember, in 2024, we specified that there were 265,900,000 working Americans living paycheck to paycheck, barely making ends meet. That was in 2024. That's 78% of working Americans. Now, depending upon the source that you look at, that went down to 65%. And currently, the last thing that I checked, the last time I checked, it's gone down to 62%. That's an improvement. We'll take it. So that's a dynamic to watch. That's data. I love data. I love looking at measurements and comparisons. So in 2024, 79% of Americans felt the country was going in the wrong direction. There are some that still think it's going in the wrong direction, but there are a lot of dynamics that has happened, one of which with our president that we have now, his 20 promises are fulfilled. They just are. In a year and a half, they've all been fulfilled. And you're welcome to go to my Facebook page. It's on there. I had it pinned, but if you type it in, Trump's fulfilled promises, it's very clear. He's not perfect, but that's quite an accomplishment. The majority of citizens said, listen, we don't like the direction that the country's going in. We had that election in 2024. When they just ordained Kamala Harris to be the candidate, and she lost fair and square. And so here we are in 2026, We got an election coming up in November, and we've got a presidential election that'll be here before we know it in 2028. And so we've got a lot going on, guys, and it's important that we have intellectually honest discussions. That's how I roll. I want intellectual honesty, and so I come over here in this community and we dissect things. So guys, there are a lot of people vying for our attention. They want to be the leader. They want to be in charge. Donald Trump's not going to be in charge all the time. And I believe Donald Trump, he won't stick around like Obama has done and stay in the thick of things with the Democratic Party. There's a Trump influence and effect. I call it the Trump effect. We've heard that before. But he's not going to be front and center like Obama has been. I don't think so. That remains to be seen. But as we move forward, there are things we need to examine. Now, one thing that's generating a lot of discussion in our nation is that there's a lot on the line, and that's what we're going to talk about tonight. There's a lot on the line. And in line with that, our clinical perspective is going to be now or never. Now or never. There's a lot on the line, now or never. My fellow Americans and my brothers and sisters, we have been surrounded by dysfunctional behavior, surrounded by people that have all kinds of presentations with the influence of this dysfunctional behavior on what they say and do. Dysfunctional describes something that simply doesn't function normally, properly, or in a healthy manner. It refers to systems. It can be machines that can become dysfunctional, or relationships that are broken, impaired, or causing problems. Now, the term commonly applies to dysfunctional families. Relationships with constant conflict or something that is malfunctioning. What we are referring to for the purposes of our podcast tonight, our podcast, yes, in this community, is from a general perspective. It's a breakdown or an abnormality in functioning. Excuse me, guys. Listen, all we have to do is to be intellectually honest. I say that a lot. Why? Because it's lacking a lot of times in our fellow Americans and our brothers and sisters and people around us. They're just not intellectually honest. There's a challenge to look at facts. And I know a dynamic that affects that is being programmed, manipulated, and controlled by the mainstream media. It's no different than Joseph Goebbels and who was Hitler's minister of propaganda, with those people receivers that they would listen to, and they programmed them on what they wanted them to believe. And that's exactly what we're being presented with radio, social media, TV, for sure, these programs, guys. People are challenged with being intellectually honest. I'm not, and many of us are not. So if we can be intellectually honest and see what the Democratic Party is trying to protect and maintain, is going to help to open our eyes. Now, guys, the Republican Party, left and right-leaning, is something wrong with both sides. But guys, from a historical, talking about intellectual honesty, from a historical perspective up to the current time, what we've seen presented to us by the Democratic Party is undeniable. Slavery, sharecropping, Jim Crow, welfare, the targeting of certain ethnicities, the targeting now going on with our children regarding their sexuality, the curriculums that were put in the schools under Obama's Safe Schools czar, Kevin Jennings. I mean, just what he said in the book Queering Elementary Education in 1999, that he wanted to saturate the minds of kindergartners related to homosexuality. Listen, I love my fellow Americans who that is what they choose to do. But when the decision is made to focus on that in the public schools, what are we doing? What are we doing? While our test scores and the data related to the academic achievement and progression of our students in the public schools, guys, has plummeted. The majority of fourth graders in our public schools don't have a reading proficiency level above the fourth grade. That's asinine to me. As someone who was a former teacher and school psychologist, and all the things that God has blessed me to be able to do professionally, I just go, wow. And 80 to 85% of black boys in America, it's really hit them hard. 80 to 85% of them do not have a reading proficiency level above the fourth grade. That is totally unacceptable and asinine, and it's not because they don't have the capability. What have we done wrong? I know, and anybody that can be intellectually honest, we can just go down these political pathways and see what's being pushed in the school. Instead of reading, writing, arithmetic, excellence, civics, all these things. Guys, these people have taken over with an agenda, and anybody that can be intellectually honest would have to agree. So this intellectual honesty that I push and talk about, it is vitally necessary. See, if we can do that, we'll see that the Democratic Party is trying to protect and maintain something. Do you hear me? What are they trying to protect and maintain? What is it? I highly encourage everyone to actually stop and really think about that, because there's been a pushing of agendas that's undeniable. Things are so serious regarding the sheer survival of our nation that I don't care what these blatantly racist and blinded people think. Somebody needs to go there in terms of challenging what they are perpetrating or have perpetrated upon this nation, upon our posterity, and go there and hold them to task. And a next level is being there with solutions. And that's something I see lacking with politicians in general. It's always about this and that, but who is going to the soul of America with solutions? That's a whole other flow that's in my heart and soul and in my belly. We need to be discussing issues that the mainstream media tries to keep covered, guys. As Americans, could we benefit from honest, open discussions? Could we? The truth of the matter is that there are people trying to hijack this nation with racism. It's everywhere. And we've come so far, and it's like, why are we back here again? Guys, when Barack Hussein Obama showed up, here we came again with that conversation. It's just the truth. The truth of the matter is that there are just, and here's something, some of you might like it, but it's the truth, and I can prove it. There are just as many racist Black Americans today more than ever before, and I know them. They think it is absolutely impossible for a Black person to be racist, and they want to just say, Trump, he's a racist. And I say, prove it. Oh, prove it. Prove it, please. Trump is a pet, prove it. Put up something besides a picture of him sitting beside his beautiful daughter, Ivanka, when she was a teenager. That's all they put up. See, there's no intellectual honesty with that. So there's no intellectually honesty when you see the undeniable history that man has with people of all races. Over and over again, of his money going towards, he supported Jesse Jackson in his presidential race, gave money to Black people, Jennifer Hudson and her family when she lost, when her family members, their lives were taken. On and on and on. Don King, all these Black entertainers, best friends with Michael Jackson. It goes on and on and on. It doesn't hold water. It doesn't hold water. So when I hear Black folk, he's racist, but white folk too, it's a lie. As evidenced by what? Everything I just said and so much more. Yeah, even in his policies, there's been a specificity where he did address issues that are unique from a historical perspective of how it's affected Black Americans. The man has gone there. Every single thing for some people is about race. It just is. Additionally, many have pushed the lie again and again and again that Donald Trump is racist and he is the problem in our nation. They all need to be called out and challenged regarding why they cannot seem to break out of that perpetual loop. Once I learned history that's accurately told, I quit caring what any racist folks think that are controlled by the narrative that has always been there of the Democratic Party related to what? Jim Crow, the KKK, the parasitic, sexually driven agendas that they have now. What they are saying and doing has to be confronted with the truth. Why? Why does it need to be confronted? Because there's a lot on the line. And that's what we're talking about tonight. There's a lot on the line. I don't give a rip. Did you hear me? Janice Pons does not give a rip regarding what they think about me. I know by God's holy word what he has deemed as reprobate. You can ignore it if you want to, but I'm not. Many are reprobate. Look at their agendas. They have made it clear that they're coming for our children. They even had a song where they sang it proudly. That was a game changer. That was a game changer. Based upon their sexual orientation, which they have a right to have as an adult. But do They have a right to target our children. And they sang, we're coming for them. Now, here's the clincher. Did they come for them? Get intellectually honest. Did they come for them? It became a part of the curriculum in the schools. And Obama's Safe School czar, Kevin Jennings, said that he wanted to saturate the minds of the kindergartners related to that. Oh, thanks for letting us know. And he showed up 10 years later as the Safe School czar. How did that curriculum get in the school? Get intellectually honest and answer the question. Why would I consider the thoughts of the reprobate mind, whose highest priority is the extermination and perversion of people that consider themselves Christ imagers, even their own babies? He said, God said in the scriptures that we're created in his image. Yeah. If that does not wake people up, what else is there to say regarding clarity? Now, that's God's position. Now, you can have your position. I can have my position. But as a believer and a person of faith, I've got to look at his position. It's going to affect how I think. It's going to affect my conclusions. It's going to affect my thoughts, my processes, my voting. Guys, historically speaking, Margaret Sanger and the KKK orchestrated something called the Negro Project. The Negro Project, i.e. abortion. And black Democrats carried it out while hating the abolitionists. Did you hear what I said? They will promote, it's a major plank on their party, on their platform, on their party platform. So they carry it out and they want us to pay for it while they hate the abolitionists. Think about what I just said. Did you hear what I said? They try to paint the ones who stand up for our children and for life as enemies. We are not the enemy. They empower the ending of life, their offspring, while hating abolitionists. They had a truck at their national convention offering those services to dismember, burn, and liquefy tiny citizens with viable heartbeats in the womb of women at their convention. Need I say more? Guys, if that's not loud and clear, and we're supposed to just get on board with it, I think not. And we have a constitutional right to say, I think not, and we don't want our money going towards this. Guys, they shut the government down under Obamacare because that's what that subsidy was they wanted in November 2025. You gotta know the facts. They weren't talking about that, but that's why the government was shut down. And they were like, well, they don't want people to have health care. No, the health care under Obamacare with those subsidies, that's the point, the driving point that they were trying to hold on to. They're slick. And you're not supposed to use 1 penny of federal dollars for that issue. And they was trying to slip it in anyway. That's diabolical, deceptive, and evil. You got to call it what it is. The party's lies have been totally exposed, guys, and one of the biggest being that the party switched. Guys, it never happened. They never, ever switched. That is the most ridiculous, easiest, disproven lie in the history of our nation. They think they can just say anything. We're talking about a lot being on the line here. Oh, yeah. They think they can just say anything. They think we'll just repeat it, and some people do. And hopefully, the uninformed will not research for themselves. Just follow the blood trail of the most innocent. And where will you end up? At the feet of one of the gods of the Democrat Party, Moloch. Moloch, yeah. Whom they unwittingly claim as their God of choice, that they want us to pay for the sacrifices. Moloch is an ancient Near Eastern deity of child sacrifice. Think about that. They want us to foot the bill for these lives being taken, that blood will be on the hands of America. Guys, God does not smile on that. He takes that very seriously. No shedding of innocent blood. He takes it very seriously. All over this nation, blinded eyes are opening, and we will not be bowing to gutter, trash, racism, race baiting, and manipulation that even slays the nation's own precious children. How demonically infused do you have to be to think that the Moloch worshipers are right? Now, health of a mother and specific dynamics is one thing, but to be targeted for annihilation is another story. How can I say this? Listen to me. Let's look at numbers. I like data. I'm a clinically thinking, clinically driven person. Black women, data, let's look at this. Black women in America are approximately 14% of the U.S. population, and approximately 40 to 43% of all cases where their offspring are dismembered, liquefied, and burned to their demise. You hear that comparison? Margaret Sanger, the founder of the Negro Project, which was later renamed Planned Parenthood, was a eugenicist. That means they wanted to create a supreme race, get rid of the weeds, get rid of the ones who are lower than. It was called the Negro Project. They were trying to get rid of the Negroes. It just was set up that way. They were sterilizing women in North Carolina, the state of my birth, into the 70s. Didn't even know they were being sterilized. So all of this Negro Project, it was renamed Planned Parenthood. It was the eugenicists, Margaret Sanger and company, who would be rejoicing today to see what has occurred. The glaring truth is that this is a major plank of the Democratic Party, a major party plank, connected to the government shutdown in 2025. Guys, they were not saying that, but the conservatives on Capitol Hill that no, that's why they were standing their ground. And it was like, they don't want us to have health care. They don't, baby, no, we don't. Not if that's what we're paying for. Get it out of the caveat of what we had to be considering. These people are slick and they're evil. They won't tell you that health care connected to the Obamacare subsidies was what it was all about. Remember that federal dollars are not to go towards that. They're slick and they're deceptive. They always have been and they always will be. Their gravy trains are gone. Those fraudulent scams and money laundering fronts, as evidenced by what was happening in Minnesota, and it was happening in many, many other places. It's been shut down. Why? President Trump and Marco Rubio and all of them and J.D. Vance, they got on top of that and shut it down. They don't like it. Can you imagine what will be going on if they were in charge? Let's address another lie. Donald Trump is not, I'm going to say it again, he is not a pedophile or a Russian asset. Obama promoted the whole Russian hoax lie. That's being intellectually honest. How much did that cost us? $32 million to perpetrate that lie, that Russian hoax lie? All you ever see is a picture of Donald Trump sitting beside his daughter Ivanka to provide proof that he was doing something to her. The most intellectually dishonest, weak, deceptive presentation that you could ever want to put out there. People look like fools, guys, when they do this. He's a father sitting beside his daughter, not a pervert abusing her. And that's all I ever see. And they just throw it out there. Just throw it out there. Why? That's what they've been programmed with. And they just repeat the lies. Also, guys, there was no Project 2025 that Kamala Harris kept hollering about in 2024 as she proclaimed that it was going to destroy Black America. I actually saw that headline in what's called a black newspaper as I was in what's called a black church as I was sitting there being traumatized by what was coming across that pulpit. It was all lies and propaganda, and I said, God, get me out of this place. I left that church and wept bitterly. I wept because I just saw what was going on. And it wasn't even a mandate going on, and they were standing outside with masks on. Guys, I could go on and on. Falling for the lies and the propaganda. Bondage. They can put a mask on if they want to. They're outside. Wasn't even a mandate in the city, and they were trying to force me to have my temperature checked to come in and worship. I physically ran from that man coming after me with the thermometer. I told him, I said, sir, there's no CDC guideline saying that this has to be done. There's not one here in this city. And they looked at me, cut their eyes, they were ticked off. But I said, you're not putting that thermometer on my body. You're not putting it on me. I'm not doing it. And I walked off. They got ticked off looking at me side-eyed. And then I went inside and got exposed to that about Trump's 2025. Guys, it's a lie. It's a lie. Part of the manipulation. President Trump has been trying to save us from Agenda 2030. He's not trying to perpetrate Agenda 2025. Project 2025, he's been trying to save us from Agenda 2030. What is that? That's a global agenda which would weaken us as a nation. It would weaken our national security. Guys, President Trump was not trying to steal Medicare. That was another lie. He's trying to steal Medicare from all the old people. He was trying to keep illegal immigrants from taking over the nation via fraudulent scams and money laundering fronts, which are still currently, and in 2026, it was totally busted wide open in terms of exposing what the Democrats did in Minnesota, for example. Given all that, the Somalians, they didn't even have people in those daycares. They didn't even have people in those home health outfits. Millions upon millions of dollars was being sent over in Africa. COVID-19 fraud cases, fraudulent feeding programs, empty daycare centers, home health outfits getting paid and providing no service, billions upon billions of dollars gone. Some of it's in Africa, Somalia, our money's gone. The Democrat Party's angry. You know why? Their gravy trains have been stopped. Billions upon billions of dollars have gone through fraud operating under Obamacare. People falsely use Social Security numbers. Go look this stuff up, guys. Get off of the news. Go look this up. And they were using Social Security numbers to perpetrate fraud and getting subsidized health insurance. Who was paying for it? Who promoted child grooming organizations, pushed and promoted right there in our public schools? Guys, we're talking about a lot being on the line. It's now or never that we speak up. Who was promoting all that? You know the things promoted by Obama's Safe Schools are. Look him up, Kevin Jennings. I've already put it out there. Why would he want to saturate the minds of kindergartens regarding homosexuality? These aren't even grown people. Why? Why the babies? Then Obama appointed Jennings as the first safe school czar 10 years later. Are the dots connecting, guys? Are they? The truth of the matter is that we are confronted with a political party of moral decay and even sexual deviancy, grooming kindergartners and brainwashing our school children with godless rhetoric. And the notion that, well, boys can be girls and girls can be boys. That's what we're going to focus on, boys and girls. Not reading, not writing, not arithmetic. Now we don't, our reading proficiency levels is not past the 4th grade solidly. Do you see the perpetration? Do you see the accosting? They want us to pay for all that stuff. Guys, there's a lot on the line. Where do you stand? Where do you stand? The Democrat Party and the NEA was pushing policies that promoted elementary students learning how to transition without the knowledge or consent of the parents. Is that okay for us as a nation? There are numerous lawsuits that have been filed in California, Wisconsin, Florida, and Maryland, asserting that these policies violate parents' fundamental constitutional rights to direct the upbringing and education of their children. There's a lot going on, and guys, there's a lot on the line. They didn't care who was coming into our nation. It's all been about cheating, manipulating numbers. It's been a part of the agenda, and President Trump stopped it. They didn't care about safety. It was all about pushing their diabolical agendas. Neither political party is perfect, but there is absolutely no comparison between the one of slavery, segregation, Jim Crow, the KKK, and the party that freed the slaves, the Abolitionist Party, which became the Republican Party. When I learned history that was accurately told, it was over for me. I left the Democratic Party. Republicans are not perfect, but I left the other. And when I saw what they're doing today, I definitely could not hook up with them. That's history accurately told. Whenever someone says the party switched, my question is, switch to what? Switch to what they were doing historically to what now? People need to be challenged with that question. Guys, I don't agree with everything the Republicans do. And it leaves me always with the question, who holds the higher moral ground, the moral high ground overall? What we've addressed tonight is historical truth as it relates to pervasive dysfunction that we've been inundated with, that puts us in the position that there's a lot on the line. This takes us into our clinical perspective, now or never. Guys, we are in one of the most strategic moments in our nation. Yeah, now or never. That's our clinical perspective. We will stand up for what is right or fall for anything. It's literally now or never. Now or never, we will stand up for what is right. This means to defend your moral principles and values, even when it's difficult, even when it's unpopular, even when it requires personal sacrifice. Standing up for what is right involves making an active choice to advocate for justice and truth and morality rather than choosing the easiest or the safest path. I respectfully submit that this is going to involve living your convictions, which may involve a few mindful steps. Now, I respectfully suggest that the following steps be applied to the realities such as that are related to exposing kindergartners to explicit materials which are sexual in nature, or guiding a child in transitioning without parents' knowledge. Here's one: pause. Take a break to evaluate the situation before reacting. Pause. Here's another one: assess. Assess. Ask yourself if someone is being harmed or if a core boundary is being crossed. Guys, this is a way of thinking. Then they're speaking up. State your objections calmly but firmly. Focus on facts rather than emotion. And also stand your ground. Prepare to stand alone if necessary. The right path isn't always the easiest path. Taking a stand against injustice creates meaningful change and protects your self-respect. Standing up for what is right is essential because why? It anchors your integrity, protects human dignity, and breaks cycles of injustice. It may involve defending your morals, even when it means standing alone. I've had to stand alone so many times, but I stood. What's the possible outcome? It fostered for me genuine self-respect. It prevented resentment, and it inspired others to hold on to their values. Consider our spiritual truth tonight. related to all of this. There are scriptures that offers powerful encouragement to defend truth and justice. A standout scripture is Proverbs 31, verses 8 through 9. What does it say? Open your mouth for the mute, for the rights of all who are destitute. Open your mouth, judge righteously, defend the rights of the poor and the needy. That is broad. And I'm applying it to what I've covered tonight. Then there's Galatians 6, 9. It encourages believers not to grow weary in doing what is right, promising a reward if we do not give up. Oh my God, I love that. Then there's Ephesians 6:13. It calls us to put on the whole armor of God, that we can stand our ground and remain firm in times of testing. As we close tonight, I want to highlight the brilliant work of my amazing fellow American and friend, Mark Lennon, who is an outstanding, talented poet. And this is the title. I love to highlight him at times. And this is what we're going to close with. How to Teach Division. They're teaching them divisions in our public schools, in music and in movies, where leftists seem to rule. Divisions gained a foothold in higher education, where liberal professors now undermine our nation, where blacks are shown as victims, low on intellect, a class of lowly people that liberals must protect. They're teaching them that people just like you and me lack the intellect to simply show ID. They're spreading wicked lies without fact or basis. They hold that all white folks inherently are racist. They'll call you homophobe in this walk of life if you hold that marriage consists of man and wife. And should you dare reject Margaret Sanger's vision, they'll say that you hate women and paint you with derision. They're teaching them divisions in our public schools, in music and in movies, where leftists seem to rule. Guys, we got to speak up. We got to speak up. Why? There's a lot on the line. That's what we've looked at tonight. There's a lot on the line, and our clinical perspective is about now or never. If I've said it once, I'll say it again. We're going somewhere, and it's expecting us when we get there. We're surrounded by those who are in dire need of intervention. I am so moved and motivated by us looking at intervention. Guys, we know what's wrong, but we got answers. We deserve to get better. There's a need for us to get intellectually honest, and we're going to keep moving forward as we go together from, in this community, from destruction to dignity, clinical perspectives, spiritual truth. We're going to keep pressing in. We're going to keep dissecting things. Guys, God bless you. I appreciate you all sharing this. The podcast has been shown all over the world. People are downloading it all over the world. I can't tell you how grateful I am and how much I honor and respect you all. Guys, we're going to keep moving forward, and I will see you next week. Good night.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of From Destruction to Dignity with Janice Pons. Janice's mission is to provoke thought, bring awareness, and point people towards intervention when needed. As a reminder, this show is not therapy, but for educational purposes only. For more information, check out JanicePons.com or follow her on social media.
We are one power, strength is ours, liberty, been set free, education, Africa. Reformation, dedication, information, revelation.